where we have to be civil to each other. In fact, the only reason she was even invited to my wedding was because my mother had forced me to invite her because it would look weird otherwise. I don't know why exactly my mother thinks that I owe her an apology at all, but I've decided that I'm going to ignore all of it. I was quite upset for a few days that my own mother was taking my stepsister's side, but honestly, I'm used to it by now. I've told my husband about what's been happening and he thinks that the best thing to do right now would be to just ignore her and let things go. And that's what I'm doing. I'm done with them. Update 2. So, 2 days have passed since the last update, and after posting that, I decided to block all of them. Only then did I realize how much this had been weighing on me, and I felt such relief when I finally cut them out of my life. I can't even believe that for so long, my mother forced me to pretend to be on good terms with my stepsister just so that people wouldn't judge them for failing as parents. They're the ones who were unable to make my stepsister a decent person, and yet, somehow, I was the one who had to suffer because of that. But yeah, anyway, I blocked them all and I thought that would be the end of it. However, last night, my mother came over and she seemed really disappointed. I didn't have anything to say to her, very honestly, and after almost 5 minutes of awkward silence, she started talking to me about how my actions had negatively impacted the family. I cut her off, saying that there was no family as such, at least for me. After she married my stepdad, it became very clear with time that she preferred my stepsister over me, and everything that she did was forgiven, but the same rules didn't apply to me at all. I told her how much she'd hurt me over the years and that I wasn't going to apologize or put up an act anymore. I was just done. She got really upset after my rant and tried to explain to me that the reason she distanced herself from me after her separation was because I reminded her too much of my dad. Which wasn't fair to me in the least, because of course I would remind her of my dad, but that was no reason for her to start treating me as if I was just my father's daughter and not hers, too. I told her that while I would try to understand her side of the story, I just couldn't forgive her that easily and needed time. But no matter what my equation with my mother was, I wasn't going to apologize to my stepsister or pretend to be sorry for what I did, and I made it known to her as well. She left looking really morose and disappointed, but that couldn't be helped. A day has passed since our last conversation, and while I have unblocked her, we haven't yet spoken. Update 3. 1 week has passed since my last conversation with my mother and she hasn't reached out again since, so I'm guessing she's not sorry. Which is fine by me, honestly. I've come to terms with the fact that she prefers my stepsister, and that's just how it is. Nothing I say or do is going to change it anymore. But my stepsister hasn't moved on from what I did yet and has taken to badmouthing me to all our relatives yet again. She's been telling everyone that her husband cheated on me only because I was a toxic psycho and he found her company peaceful. Apparently, she's told people that I used to emotionally manipulate my ex into staying with me every time he tried to break up, which is part of the reason that he ended up cheating on me. Another reason was that I was pushing him to get married to me even though he told me that he wasn't ready yet, which scared him. Now obviously not one word of any of that is true, but my relatives are now divided about whom they should believe, since my stepsister, unlike me, is a very convincing liar. One of my cousins has been keeping me updated with whatever lies she's been spreading about me, and it's honestly just outrageous that she's trying to make me out to be the liar here when we all know what kind of person she is. My mother is not going to intervene at all. That's something I'm sure of, and neither am I going to ask her to, because she's just going to refuse to say anything to her favorite daughter anyway. But I'm not going to let this one slide either, because if she can go so low, then I can definitely go lower. I've blocked her on all social media, but thankfully, I know a lot of her co-workers and friends, and I'm going to make sure that everyone gets to know what kind of person my darling stepsister is. It's petty and cruel, and I'm glad I can finally stop pretending that I care about her or her feelings, since she's never cared about mine. And even my husband feels that whatever I'm doing, no matter how petty and mean it seems, all comes from a place of justified anger. I was forced to suppress my anger and resentment towards my stepsister for so long that it was bound to bubble up and come out in destructive ways sometime or the other, and he thinks that it's better now than never, since she's the one who's been pushing me for a reaction for a long time anyway. So I've decided that I'm going to expose what she did to me to every single person who knows her this time, and it certainly won't be pretty. Update 4. So, I did it. I posted everything that my stepsister had done to me with proof, since I did have a few screenshots of texts between me and my ex, and even some taunting texts that my stepsister had sent to me over the years to show that I wasn't lying. I posted it yesterday, and my phone has been totally blowing up with notifications because of the sheer number of people who have been texting me. To my surprise, it wasn't just my relatives who reached out to me, but also my stepsister's co-workers and some of her acquaintances had sent me texts detailing their own bad experiences with my stepsister. Apparently, she's quite the office flirt and flirts with every guy regardless of whether they're married or not. And as if that wasn't messed up enough, she also treats other women like absolute crap and is always saying mean things about her so-called friends behind their backs. So far, I've learned that she's a flirt, a gossip, and a backstabber, and the list just keeps growing. My stepsister is furious that I went public with this information and has been trying to get true to me and has made several different accounts to get me to harass me into taking my post down. But she doesn't scare me in the slightest, so the post is still up. I'm sure she's reporting the post as well, so maybe Facebook will take it down eventually, but I for sure won't be deleting it. My mother is also mad at me and has made it a point to tell me that while she'd expected me to deal with this like a mature and grown woman, I'd let her down and act like a complete fool. She also told me that my stepdad was very pissed off about the kind of stunts I'd been pulling off since it was affecting his reputation among his friends as well, so he wanted me to publicly apologize to everyone and delete my posts. And if I didn't do that, they'd be forced to cut me out of their lives as well, and that'd mean my entire inheritance would go to my stepsister. It's just funny that they think threatening to cut me off is going to be effective in any way whatsoever since I'm the one who blocked them first, so obviously I don't care whether or not my stepdad wants me in his life. I'll be a little disappointed about my mother cutting me off, but like I said, I've accepted that she doesn't love me as much as she adores her stepdaughter and I'm okay with it. As for the inheritance, I earn well enough to support myself and so does my husband, so it's not like we're worried about the money. Moreover, when my dad passed away a few years ago, he left me with way more money than my stepdad would have, so I'm not particularly worried about losing out on the inheritance, quite honestly. Update 5. 2 days since I posted, and holy crap, that one post ended up opening up Pandora's box. First off, my parents obviously cut me off when I told my mother that I wasn't going to take that post down. She tried to convince me that losing my relationship with my parents wasn't worth it and that taking revenge on my stepsister shouldn't be my sole motive. I reminded her that I hardly even had a relationship with him anymore, so I was okay with losing whatever little I had if that meant I could get back at that evil demon, which led to a fight and ended with her blocking me everywhere like I'd done to her first. It stung, but whatever. And then, yesterday, I got to know from my other relatives that my stepsister and her husband were headed for divorce. I was very confused as to what exactly had changed in a night, and after some digging, I found out through my cousin that apparently, one of her male co-workers who'd seen my post had decided to actually text her husband. The co-worker had sent him multiple screenshots of my stepsister trying to flirt with him, and since he was already married, he was pretty uncomfortable. Obviously, this didn't go down well with my stepsister's husband. They got into a huge fight and decided to end their marriage. He's filed for divorce and single custody of their son, which is sad for the kid, but honestly, I'm happy that they're both finally being punished for whatever they'd put me through. I've obviously cut myself off from the situation entirely, and I guess my stepsister has learned her lesson now since she's kept her mouth shut after that post. It's crazy how one decision of mine to expose my stepsister ended up ruining her marriage and quite possibly her relationship with her son as well, but I don't feel guilty about it at all. She brought this all onto herself. From what I know, she's moved back in with my parents because she's facing flack at work as well because of her behavior, so she might even have to quit her job too pretty soon. I'm relieved that I hopefully won't have to deal with her and her craziness for the foreseeable future, and just to ensure that I'm as far away from her as possible physically as well, my husband and I have decided to leave for our honeymoon this week itself. We're going to go on a Europe tour and I'm super excited for what's in store for us. I'm going to put all this dramatic nonsense about my stepsister, my parents, and my family out of my head for the next few weeks and try to enjoy my life to the fullest. And hopefully, when I come back, I'll be a better and more free person with less emotional baggage. Truth be told, now that I'm finally done with my family, I feel a lot less bogged down already.